brighter light. Inner circles here where voices thrive. Turn on your screens, let the magic unfold. Listening and healing as stories are told. Come one, come all, this is your time. No topics too tough, just heed the calls. From mental health woes to justice we seek. Together we rise for the strong and the meek. A safe space for all, let's lift every voice. Inner Circle podcast where hearts unite. Sharing our truths, bringing hope to the light. Community strong, we're never alone. Together as one, we've created a home. With laughter and love, we break down the walls. No topics too tough, just heed the calls. From mental health woes to justice we seek. Together we rise for the strong and the meek. A safe space for all, let's lift every voice. So join the conversation, let's set the tone. Inner Circle podcast where love is well known.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Inner Circle podcast. Today is Wednesday, March 11th. Man, the month is flying. March 11th. And I'm your host, Abe Kamara, and tonight we have a special guest. Our topic for tonight is from idea to impact, building a consulting business that serves communities. Is our finance and business segment. So tonight we have an entrepreneur in the house, and she's going to tell us, everything about herself, her business, and things like that. So, Miss B, welcome to the show.
Good evening, everyone. It's your girl, Miss B.
Okay. Folks, before I get to our guest, you can put a comment in the chat if you have a question. You can also call our number 952 tonight, 952-594-515 if you have any question for our guest. With that, I will have Miss O.C. Sesay introduce herself, and then we can get into things.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I was enjoying that theme song. Okay, I was ready to get down a little bit. No, but thank you, Inner Circle. Thank you, Abe, Miss B, for allowing me to be here. Really excited to be able to just share what I've learned on the journey of business and still learning. It's an opportunity to just help somebody who's in that stage of either wanting to start or feeling stuck or feeling discouraged. I hope the conversation tonight I'm able to really bless somebody that they keep pushing, because they call me the push strategist, and that's because I keep pushing to my purpose and help others push to their purpose in business, career, and beyond. So thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, with that, what is push, and how did you come up with the name Push Strategist?
Yeah, well, push strategist, actually, a girlfriend of mine, we would joke and she would say, you're always pushing people to go after their goals, go after their dreams. So we coined, or she, I would say, started it. And then I said, yeah, I like the push strategist. So that it started back in, I think me and her would joke about it in 2017 or 2016. But I've actually been an entrepreneur since 2013. I started my business then in New York City. But really, it honestly has just always been part of my DNA. My mom found her way to always sell and do business. My dad also was into entrepreneurship, and he eventually not only did it on the small scale, but he had a store in New Jersey for some time. And I really just, I guess, it started off in the fashion industry for me in New York, and then it transitioned to me wanting to help push businesses. I launched my clothing line in 2011, 2009. I moved back from Minnesota to New York. I went to college in North Carolina, worked here for Target Corporation, and then decided to go back to school and get a degree in fashion merchandising at a fashion college in New York. And on that journey, I just said, hey, I want to get into the fashion industry, started my business then. But the problem in New York is you can have so many different creatives and so many different talents, but finding places to sell and position yourself is hard. It's very expensive just for the square foot space to have a store. So I just took it upon myself. I was like, you know what? I can't sit here and have this hell of a rent and all these other things I need to take care of. I got to really get myself out there. So I ran across a vacant storefront, and I reached out. I just called the number and I pitched myself to him. I told him, hey, your storefront's sitting vacant. Would you rather lose money or would you want to rent it to me, where I will find businesses in Brooklyn here who are also looking to sell and showcase their product and services. I will do the contracts. I will find everybody. All you have to do is just look forward to your rent every month. And he just said yes. And I was like, what did I get myself into? But from there is really when I started pushing people. So I found a young girl as young as 11, Bree was at the time. She used to make these cool pins. They were so cool. And she would design them to Miss Loretta, who was one of our oldest business owners in the incubator space. And we would make it fun. One of my girlfriends now, good friend, I pulled her in. I said, come do this with me. She was in to vintage sales and doing excellent. So shout out to Colleen in Brooklyn.
Okay.
She's still there. And long story short, we just created a community and just found a place to give people the opportunity to sell every week. And we'll have fashion shows. We had a dog food vendor. We would have dogs, everything. And it was really fun. And then the Brooklyn Borough office saw what we were doing and gave us a second space. So then I created that space. And then the rest is history.
Okay.
I've just always wanted to, when I see a problem, I don't wait for somebody else to bring the solution. I just find a way to make it work. And I
Okay.
think that gift has really kept me in the area of business and entrepreneurship. You have ups, you have downs, but you have to keep pushing. And I'm just thankful that it's something that I really love. So I always tell people, if you're going to go into this, make sure it's something you love, because it's not always a cakewalk. And I'm
Okay.
happy that I've been able to do it this long. So
Yeah. Miss B, question from you.
Wow, that is a lot. Um, and I want to believe that was just the beginning of the
yes,
journey, because
yes,
you're doing different things now. But I kind of want to talk more about, because you use the word incubator, kind of like tell people like, what was that exactly that you got to create in Brooklyn before you got back to Minnesota?
yeah. It was. I wanted to create a community of entrepreneurs who were in maybe the early stages, and teach them, so they didn't just come in a space and sell. Like, gave them opportunities to market. We gave them for marketing. So we would teach them how to, we'll have flyers, we'll do grassroots marketing in the community. We would have, we wanted to educate them on how to go from just an idea or early stage to actually making it something that can be scalable. So we would come up with crazy fun ideas to attract community, and we started to get some press. So we were so excited when we got our first newspaper that came and visited us, and then we had a celebrity who came to purchase a dress and wore one of my dresses. So that was a big deal, and it just was an opportunity to help people come in one space. And there's something about being in a community that you really can see and have ideas flow. And then you're also working along with people who get entrepreneurship. They get what it takes, they get what it means. And so it even made it more fun. So I honestly, Denise, would say that incubator is so important and key. So having business community spaces are important, because an everyday person, may not get some of the nuances that come with business, but in that space, we always lean on each other. And when somebody's sales were down, we were selling each other's product. I'm like, oh, go check out the nail vendor, go check. So it was just really a fun opportunity to not only showcase what we do, our product and services, but also to really help us learn how to do business better, how to market, what it means to make a sale, how to even price our product. Those are conversations we would have in that space. And when we were down, we're like, okay, we're not
Mm-hmm.
getting traffic. What could we do? And we always found a way to really position ourselves to grow. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
Yeah, that answered my question.
What did you learn from that early experience, though, right, that got you going today, right, up to this? Now you're doing big things. We'll get into that, but what did you learn from that early experience?
Well, honestly, I think one of the big things is contracts.
Mm,
Because when we took that first space, like I was young, I was in my 20s, my early 20s, and we have when we transitioned from the first space to the second, now we have the Brooklyn Borough office, who is a government body coming to say they want to give us this opportunity, and I think that was one learning for me, like what it means to really understand your contract, make sure you know what it means, the commitment to it. Because the one thing I would say, I know I started in fashion and I love fashion. I thank God for that. But what I learned about myself is I like the business side of of fashion, and just of the business side. I had so many creatives in this space, and I always helped with the business side. So I started to realize that although that I love that journey of the fashion industry, the business side is what made me thrive and where I was excellent at. So I found my lane, and I started to pay more attention to those behind the scene things, because that contract, we were just happy to get a space. We're like, oh, we have our second space. And as I dug in more, I'm like, oh, okay, it comes with these little nuances. Oh, we didn't know that. Okay. And so I think that was my first eye opener to making sure you really do business the right way. Read everything triple time and make sure you understand what the commitment is one of the big things I took away. And then that you have ups and downs.
mm,
Um, we had days that vendors felt like, hey, I say, you told me you'll be here, we'll make all these sales, and I'm not, what's happening? And I would feel the pressure, like, oh, we got to do more, we got to do more. But it helped me, really understand how to manage people,
yeah,
um, and how to, understand that businesses have up and downs, and how to keep my momentum and my drive and my excitement despite what foot traffic may look like that day. And those key things help me, because now I understand that you're going to have ebbs and flows. You have peaks and valleys
sure,
in
sure.
business, but that does not mean you should stop. It's like, okay, this is an opportunity to figure out what I can do better in those valleys, so I
Okay.
can get back up to that mountaintop. So,
You mentioned earlier that entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart. What made you go into entrepreneurship? Obviously, I know you talk about that a little bit. I want you to expand on that. And then what have got you to endure, all those years? I mean, from those early days and then up to now. As I said, you're doing big things. We'll get into that, obviously. But what have got you to endure all those years?
first, my faith in Christ, because only
Mm,
the
mm,
Lord can keep me going. So I got to give him credit, number one, because there are days that I was challenged. One day you can get a six-figure contract, the next day you're looking at your bank account like we eating ramen noodles. Okay. And that's how it was in the beginning, and you have that happen. But I had to learn how to manage cash flow and understand what it means to have access to capital and manage that to take me through when government contracts say net 30, net. So I think what kept me is exciting. It was
mm,
exciting to me, still is exciting. And I feel so rewarded when you're able to take the ideas that God gives you or the skills you have and solve somebody's problem. Because for me,
mm,
that's what business is about. How can I solve a community's problem? How can I solve a client's product problem? How can I solve a friend's problem who is figuring out how can I generate more revenue? And we think of a business idea. So for me, it's about solving problems. And I really advise all business owners. Sometimes people go into business, like you asked about, it's not for the faint of heart. They go into it and they think, oh, because I like it or my family gave me good feedback, or it seems cool, but they don't do the market research. They don't answer those questions. What problems are you solving? And is that problem big enough to give you the kind of income you want to make? Or,
mm,
hey, are you making a product that you'll eventually sell? So you have a strategy around that. It's just really one of those things that, like I said, I love the
yeah.
excitement of it. And then two, it keeps me going. What keeps me going is just being able to really solve problems and make people live a better life, or clients have a better business.
I mean, yeah, the problem solving part is very deep. Miss B, question from you.
So I'm excited to see how do we transition from New York of all places,
Mhm.
to, you know, the Twin Cities, right? So
Yeah.
you have this incubator, and I believe you're thriving, you're doing well,
Yeah.
but you end up back in Minnesota. So what is the journey from there here?
Yeah, so I end up back in Minnesota because of love. These men would take you off track, okay?
Don't I know about that?
No, but I met my husband. I actually, so one of my goals for my fashion business, which again kind of shows how I loved what I did, but it was always about doing the business side. I wanted to create like a be like a wholesaler between New York or America and Africa. So I went to Liberia, which is where my mother's from. My dad's from Nigeria, but I started there. And my
Mm,
goal was, hey, if I can find a place to produce clothing for others and myself, then I can be this, wholesaler and getting designers to get things made at a cheaper rate than how it was in the States because it was pretty expensive for a seamstress and if you're not designing your own thing. So my goal was to start with myself first and then um, bring other designers who can be clients. But I was doing well and I went to Liberia. I met my husband there who he was visiting Liberia for some business things and then the rest was history. We ended up getting married, moved. I had got pregnant with twins and loved my New York life and cried so much and did not want to leave New York. Like it was like kicking and screaming because things were going so well there. But one thing I'll say, always be open for, God's change of plan. As hard as it was, if I never left New York, I don't think I would be where I was, where I am now, because it was here in Minnesota where I really got to kick off and start my now consulting work and nonprofit work. And maybe I would have done great in New York too, but I'm really grateful for this opportunity. And it's actually helped me learn and do a lot more of the business side that I feel is what I am best at. So yeah, I wanted to be close to my mom who's here, and sisters and some family. And I still have family in the East Coast. But I wanted to be close to mom. It was our first kids. So we moved back to Minnesota and I felt like I was starting over because I did my professional career because I didn't mention I worked in recruitment in New York as well before after I left the incubator. I did do a stint of recruitment work, which was awesome. And that taught me a lot. But I came here and felt like I had to start over. I felt like it was like hard to get in. Minnesota's the type of place if people don't know you, people go to high school together, middle school together, and they just stay together. I'm like, don't you guys want to broaden your horizons? So it was really a challenge to break in. As much as I grew up here, I went to middle school, high school, elementary. When my parents moved from New York to Minnesota, I was young. So I went to high school and I left after high school. But it was hard to, break in. But I used what I learned about networking and what I learned about recruitment.
mm,
And I
yeah.
really started to build what is now Push Strategist LLC, which is a consulting firm here that I've been doing for now 6 years here in Minnesota.
Okay. Well, the good news is, right, once you are a Minnesotan, you're always a Minnesotan, right? You were born
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
You will go, life will take you all over, you will end up back
Yes.
there, So,
Yes.
and yours, and yours has, and yours seems to happen through love, so that is great.
Yeah.
Well, well, folks, tonight we are talking from ideas to impact, building a consulting business that serves communities. We have Miss O.C. Sesay of Push Strategists in the building. I mean, I'm already learning a lot from you, right? Your passion, your drive, the fact that you have endured for so long, and then I mean, it's inspiring. So folks, you can contribute to the conversation tonight by putting a comment in the chat or calling our number 952-594-5154. But I want to understand, right, how did you transition from your love for fashion, right, in that kind of a space, your love, I mean, to consulting and a nonprofit, especially the consulting piece? Because when you
Yeah.
talk about immigrants, especially African immigrants, right, consulting seems to be like a great area for them. How did you, transition from your love of fashion to consulting?
Yeah, so I would say the recruitment work really helped me because I did a unique service in recruitment. So I helped individuals who were from around the world come and work and live here through sponsorship. So I
Oh,
got a really unique skill where I can identify, okay, a certain profession, help them get their education credentialed, get sponsored by a U.S. company, and then eventually a lot of my candidates became U.S. citizens, and I would
mm,
help them get a green card through their employment. So the H-1B process and all those things that people are familiar, and it's changed a lot. But I did that for a while, and I helped people from over 15 countries come here. So I really learned a lot of about culture and cultural competence and all those things, and I think that helped me too. So I just got comfortable. Not if I don't know you, I've got to know you. And I think that did help me. And I just didn't get intimidated by, going up to a stranger or getting to know somebody and having to dig in, because our relationships, especially in that work world, I got very personal, because you're
mm,
bringing families, you're dealing with people who are crying over not getting a visa, just really helped me learn how to work with people better. So I think that skill also helped me a lot with transitioning, because when I came to Minnesota, I was somewhat having to start. I worked for that company for a few years remotely, and then I didn't want to return back, so I was out without a job
mm,
and got, laid off. And a lot of times, again, paying attention to your season and what God is transitioning you to, I could have jumped back into employment or been disappointed and downtrodden, but I said, well, this is another opportunity for me to figure out what's next, how to push to the next level.
mm,
So I went to a networking event, and at that networking event, I really was able to, scope the room. When you get laid off, you're in part of a program where they'll help you get connected and network to find a job.
mm,
So I went there and I told the headhunter that I was either deciding to go back in recruitment or I wanted to launch my business. And she pretty much told me that because, my name was an immigrant name, I wouldn't get hired if I put my name on my resume. So she said, put my my grandmother's name, Catherine Vincent. She said that would better. And then when I got an interview, she would help me navigate what to tell them about the name. So that really upset me because I'm like, wait, I just brought people from 15 countries around the world with
Exactly.
some unique names more than mine. And you mean to tell me? And so it started making me think about things I've had to go through, even with my own parents and my mom, having to get on the phone because somebody hears an accent and they act like the person they don't understand, or just little ignorant things that I endured even when I was living here, or that I still encountered, being from an immigrant family, even though I was, born in Brooklyn, New York. So it brought like a righteous anger, and I said, you know what? I'm going to create something that will be filled with immigrants and people with unique names and people who are black and brown. And we will go and infiltrate systems and show them how great we can do. And they
mm,
will accept our names anyway. So I started the consulting, and I was recruiting people that I identified had skills that I can work with. And then my job was to, get contract opportunities. So I was networking, and a shout out to a good friend, Anissa Haji Moment. She really, she was one of the first people I was networking with here. And she was like, "Oh, I really like you." I was like, "I like you too." And we just clicked. And she put me in contact with several communities, or I should say, state government agencies. And then I was going out and I was hitting the ground running, like everywhere there was something. I was there with a card trying to pitch what I do, and I was telling them about all this great. This team I have, which was like only maybe 3 of us at the time, but you just faith it till you make it. You don't fake it, you faith it. By faith, I said, Lord, we going together. So long story short, I got my first contract. I ended up launching a business, and it was June of 2020, so it was like the pandemic time. And when I launched it, I was doing, like we're here doing a podcast live on Facebook and trying to actually do business coaching. and I was getting zero sales. People would come and I'll say, I'll do a free consultation. They'll come get all the information and never come back. And I'm like, now this isn't working. So then I started saying, okay, let me pivot, still do it, but try to get into government contracting. So I met somebody. So love Mark. Thank you, Mark Cooper. He was also a blessing in Babatopi. But I started to get into getting
Yeah.
certified. And because when you do government contracting, it's really good to get certifications because it helps you get contracts easier and things.
Yeah.
I won't go
Okay.
into the nuances because that would
Yeah.
take time. But
Yeah.
I started getting certifications, but I was not getting work. And I'm like, now what's going on here? I mean, I was driving, what is it? Ship, because you remember during the pandemic, you were getting triple, quadruple. So I was being real cute out there, and by day, networking, by night, on ship. Because
Yeah.
you do what you have to do. And I like nice things. I was like,
Yeah.
so, and thank God my husband was supportive and family. But long story short, I was like, hey, that money I make, I put towards my business.
Mhm.
And then I ended up getting my first contract June. I launched. I got my first contract in August, and it was, a 5-figure contract. And I was like, wait, this was easy,
Yeah.
it was so fun. Didn't feel like work. And that's from there where it took off. And as it grew, I
Yeah.
just brought in more consultants, and we just
Yeah.
continued to do that kind of work. So
Okay. Miss B, question from you.
I mean, you finally got the contract, but there was a journey and a process and a lot of transition. Like, what are some of that back office things that you feel is really critical for starting out well?
yeah, I would say savings, making sure you position yourself. Because when you're building a business, you have to, everything I made, even like I said, when I was doing Shift and those side hustles, were to put back in the business. So I didn't profit in my business for several years because I was putting money back into it. So really making sure you position yourself to know that you're not going to make profit overnight. I mean, that's not realistic. It's possible. Nothing's impossible. But it takes time. And then not only just having savings, but putting systems together, because in the beginning, my work was not as demanding. I didn't have as big of clients, so I was doing everything. But eventually I'm like, hey, some of this stuff has to be automated because I'm not going to be able to do this successfully. So really being able to know not only putting money back in the business, but investing in systems and tools that will help you do business properly. And then I think also just having that go-getter mentality, because you're going to get a lot of no. I got a lot of no's before I got yes. And I would say one important thing is having a pitch and knowing how to position yourself and sell yourself. Because one thing I've learned in coaching businesses and even in my journey, in the beginning, you don't know what are you doing. Like I started off, like I said, with business coaching. So I was selling myself that way to some of the clients, and they're like, "Oh wait, I don't understand. People kept telling me, so what do you do?" And they kept asking me, "So what do you do?" So I knew I didn't have a clear messaging. And then it wasn't until I sat down and really studied my business and said, what's going to be lucrative, what will be successful. And I found a way to market myself and position myself in conversations. And that led to me converting into more clients. So take time also and really understand, what problem are you solving? What's your goal that you want to be able to do in your business, and knowing how to articulate that so people are interested in your product by really honing in on how you're solving their problem. So those things I think are
Yeah.
very important in the beginning.
I mean, you raised something for me is like, even though, Miss B know me here, right? I struggle when, the whole issue of racism, right? I like to I like to, but something I don't like to. I mean, I like to like deny it or something like that. But hey, I mean, because of just who I am. But the fact that someone would tell you, right, is like
Yeah.
change your name, on
Yeah.
a resume,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the only way you're gonna get hired.
Yep.
That
Yep.
to me is like, wow, really? I mean,
Yep.
someone actually told you that. But I think that what's that getting to, and you mentioned this earlier, right? You might be in your season, but you don't know it. I think you were in your. I think it seems to me, it was you're a fit person. It was probably God telling you you're fit. You know what? Go
Yeah.
for this, go for this journey, right? Don't go back into the corporate world.
Yeah.
Just swing with the fences, right?
Yeah.
Go into this. You know what I mean? But how was that experience like, and what was it? Is it, what I actually need to lean in to doing my own thing instead of maybe changing my name on a resume and
Yeah,
applying to a
yeah.
bunch of jobs.
Yeah, well, I like a challenge, so when she said that, and I'm a person who loves justice. Like, if
Mm,
something's not right, it disrupts me. And those who work with me now say, I said, calm down, I know you're so passionate, and it's something that I mean, it helps, but sometimes I have to make sure, okay, is this the audience to be that passionate? Because some people in Minnesota, they get intimidated by when you're direct or passionate about something, and anywhere, honestly. But Minnesota nice is what they say. But either way, I think when I heard that, I actually respected the fact she was honest with me, and I
mm,
appreciated it. But it gave me a challenge, like, oh, really? I know all these people. I just came from this opportunity where I help people with unique names. And I honestly, as a young kid growing up here, it used to bother me when I would hear the treatment of our immigrants in nursing homes that they're working, taking care of people's parents, and places that they would just let go. Our community, our African community, I could say, we're so forgiving, we're so humble, and it's good to be humble, it's good to be forgiven. Those are strengths that I honor. I see that in my parents and my uncle. I think of him, he worked at a company for years, Uncle Joe. And I'm like, Uncle Joe, you just dealt with so much that he never complained. But
mm,
in my generation that came after, we're like, no, we got to take some action, because we are here helping to bring so much wealth in this state of Minnesota. We are
mm.
doing so much to help this state be better. And because of my name, you're going to prejudge what I'm able to do.
Yeah.
It just really upset me. And I thought about how many other people doors got closed for them. And then I thought
Mm,
about, like I said, my parents and my aunts, when I would hear stories as a kid. And I'm like,
yeah.
why did they tolerate that? Why didn't they say nothing to that boss? And they
Yeah.
just let it go. So I felt like, it was an opportunity, even though I can't make the impact for everybody here.
Sure. Yeah.
I like to use the world that I'm given to make an impact in.
Okay.
Nobody may never know my name, but I'm like, at least if I can say I did this, I feel like, that's my little piece of the puzzle, that we all have one to fit into this thing called life.
Okay.
So that really pushed me and motivated me to say, okay, let's make sure we show them what we're made of. But
Mm,
eventually, I will say, I started to get clinicians who didn't look like me.
yeah.
And I did not want to do the same thing that somebody was doing to me. So I eventually worked with people who did not look like me, who were great, talented consultants, who helped me learn a lot, who helped wanted to be part of the
Sure.
solution for
Yeah.
what I had happened. So at the end of the day, it really became a place where we just did work that helps communities thrive.
Yeah.
So yeah, yep. So
Okay.
that's how it goes.
Yeah. Well, folks, so now we are discussing from ideas to impact, building a consulting business that serve communities. And we're here with Miss O.C. Sesay from Push Strategist. You can contribute to the conversation by putting a comment in the chat, calling our number 952-594-5154. Miss B, question from you.
So we're doing the consulting businesses, you're helping businesses. What are your processes or what are your services that you provide to businesses, and who is your typical business client?
Yeah, so I when I first started, I was still kind of offering as an individual the business coaching and training and even career coaching, while Push Strategist as an organization was doing contracting. So whether it was for a government or a corporate or a nonprofit, and I would do those as well. But I would offer career coaching, so individuals who were, because of the skills I had, that were immigrant or from, different backgrounds, people of colors who I mainly worked with during that season. And still who, I work with, but I work with anybody, it doesn't matter. But I was able to really help them land not only jobs that they love, but be able to sell themselves. Because again, it went back to sometimes we're very humble and we don't realize in this Western world, you have to kind of share, hey, this is who I am, this is what I bring to the table. So I did a lot of career coaching, and then I would help small businesses. I got to work with a lot of great organizations to really help coach small businesses, whether it's with their HR processes, with their strategy, really helping them go from idea stage to okay, let's launch. And then eventually, I even got opportunities to work with 6 to 7 figure businesses for the city, for 2 different big cities here, 2 of the biggest cities actually in the Twin Cities here. So I did that for a while and just really help them create strategies and processes and rethink the way they did business so they can scale. And then I fell into helping businesses get into government contracting. I got a contract with a state agency, and that agency could not get enough people of color and immigrants to apply for opportunities. And they were like, hey, I said, we want you to do a data research project for us to find out why we're not getting these communities to apply. So we ended up surveying and meeting about 144 businesses of color, and they all had the same story. We did about 20 Zoom sessions and all these, research to find out they just didn't know how. They didn't have the knowledge. And I was like, this is crazy. These are talented construction workers and so many others who are subcontracting, working for companies that's paying them a fraction, all because they don't know how to get certified or to write the proposal. So what I did after that project, I told the client, hey, I don't want to stop just giving you guys data, because a lot of, people just collect data from our communities and don't do more. So I asked them, hey, can I continue to help these individuals? And when I helped them, you guys can get them contracts. And they agreed. I was so happy they agreed. But that part I did for free. I put together a training class, and I helped train about at that time 20 of those businesses ended up getting certifications, and that agency kept their word, and they ended up giving contracts to those individuals. So now they're able to bid on contracts if they want to be a prime, and so forth. So that was also a new part of my business. So as I started, Denise, to understand my services, I came to a roadblock because I loved helping, but I got to make money. I'm a for-profit.
That part, yep.
So I'm like, if I keep giving this stuff away for free, I got mouths to feed, and so that's when I kind of started to think, how can I, do this in a way where I could still do the things I love through the for-profit, but also help communities. And I had a lady named Sister Florence. She was like, I said, start a nonprofit. And I'm like, I'm all about making money. I don't want no nonprofit. That's too much headache. I pushed it off for a long time. And then eventually God really put in my ear one day. He's like, start a nonprofit. And I told my husband, I said, okay, you know what? I have to start this. And he's like, you got to start it. So I woke up that morning. I wrote everything for the nonprofit. I called my friend. I said, okay, can you help me file this? He filed it. And I think it was like 10 or 12 days later, I got the 501(c)(3), and then that was a new world I got into, the nonprofit world. So
okay. So let me just clarify this then. Push Strategy is it for profit or non-profit?
For profit. Push Strategist is for profit. So
okay, and which one is a non-profit? Which one is a non-profit?
The nonprofit I launched was Push for Prosperity. So it's underneath the Push umbrella. Push Strategist really centers on government contracting and project-based services. That's what we do. And now what I did is all the work I was doing in coaching and career and entrepreneurship and so forth, I've moved that over to nonprofit because I was giving a lot of that stuff away anyway. And still, I do have clients that I charge because I now am a certified I need to do a few more hours, but executive coach where I do coach executives. So that's a business I'm launching. I mean, a service that USET offers, but through Push for Prosperity, we really get to help community get access to starting a business, going into the career. Now we're doing work with youth and want to get into other great programs where it's all grant funded, and we get to help communities thrive. And if they can't afford it to do it in a way where how I would charge, they now have the opportunity to get it paid for by the state. So that's really
So
important
yeah,
to
so
me.
for the I mean, so for the nonprofit, then you're getting grants from
Yep.
from okay from all, I mean from all those sources to help the community, and then you have push strategies that have contracting, which is a consulting business.
Yep.
You're getting contracts to help what? To help businesses or individuals for
Yeah.
push strategy.
So we help really state government entities. So all those state government bodies, cities like city of, Burnsville. Like I don't have a contract with them, but I'm
What are
just
you what are you helping them with? What are you helping them with?
so it's various services. So sometimes they'll come and we'll do HR consulting project with them. We'll do the data research project. We'll do language access services. We have a plethora of a portfolio of services, but those are our top areas. Community engagement is a huge one for us. So we're constantly working with agencies on how they can engage communities better. We'll put together community engagement opportunities for them to do to target certain communities that they're not able to tap into. It's really those key things. But we have some special areas that we consult into as well. But those are our main services that we offer. And then now through the nonprofit, we're still offering so much support when it comes to programming that helps either individuals start a business, build a business, go into wanting their business to scale and get into government contracting,
Sure, sure.
landing a career, and so much more we have underneath that umbrella too as well.
With the current environment, right, wherein like DEI seems to be a toxic word, and the way I see you operating with your consulting, how are you navigating the current environment in terms of, like especially when you have government contracts, right, where in DEI seems to be toxic, but those are the people maybe you're trying to help government with HR consulting, whatever, and other areas. How are you navigating that?
Honestly, it was a challenge at first because
Mm,
a lot of our work was for equity and inclusion, and we
mm,
did a lot of DEI. But the cool thing, which I'm really thankful to God for, is we always, our work always ends up just being labeled in system changing systems.
got it.
So what we do is, like, I'll give you, we are it's a form of helping to bring equity, but it's really changing in the whole system. So if a government agency needs to reach more individuals who are, in lower income or that happen to be people of color, and it's for them to get their driver's license and they're not tapping into that, we come help put those programs, those community outreaches together to do that.
Okay.
So it's somewhat, yes, you can say equity, inclusion, DEI, but it's really about helping them better engage to make sure their system is reaching everybody.
So your
So
branding is different. So your branding is different, basically.
yeah, you can say
Okay.
that. Yep, because
Okay.
and with all the changes, we had to all change.
Yeah.
Well, and it depends the audience because
Yeah.
some clients still do equity and inclusion work, but with the new administration,
Yeah.
and some clients still appreciate it. So but we have to find other ways to
Yeah.
be able to engage in it. But either way, like what I will say too for our work is
Yeah.
not just only about individuals of color. We help underserved individuals. So some of the clients we serve are European, some of them
Yeah.
are, it's I really, for me, it's about underserved single mothers that are from
Yeah.
any different background,
Okay.
that are needing that support. So I really tend to stay in that underserved category, and that also has allowed me to do work
Okay.
I still love, but taking away, unfortunately, the equity and inclusion, which we
Sure.
need. Data shows it, but we have to go with the season this world is in right now. So
Yeah. Okay. Miss
yeah.
B. Miss B, question from you.
Yeah.
So I mean, I feel indifferent to the DEI thing. It is what it is. But being who we are, I'm sure we're already learning and already have probably pushed past this DEI.
Yes.
It wasn't working for us in the first place.
Yep.
And even now we've found a way past it, right? Like we're not going to be stopped. And so I kind of want to hear about some of the great programs that Push for Prosperity has right now, and some of the things that you have coming up.
Yeah. So, and I agree. At the end of the day, when you look at those numbers, we weren't benefiting anyway, but that's another conversation.
Yes.
So, and one thing about our community is we know how to make it work in all situations.
Yes.
When you've gone through life, you've gone through war, you've gone through different things, you're like, hey, shake that dust off and keep rolling. It's those who haven't faced it that are, cringing in their boots, but we're like, okay, what's next?
That part, yes.
And it's just how it is. So we thank God for that tenacity from our community. But for Push for Prosperity, we're doing awesome things that I am so excited about and looking forward to not only being able to offer it to Minnesotans, but around the nation and the world. So we'll get there, but we are just starting out. We're only 2 years old. So we're still young and we're still learning. But we have had such a great opportunity. We had gotten our first contract with Deed, where we were able to create the PIPE program. And the PIPE program is an opportunity to help early stage entrepreneurs or those who are trying to scale really grow. We help businesses not only launch, but paid for their websites to get launched, their logo design, to file their business with the state so they're doing business legitimately. We help people pay for certification to have women-owned certification, which is really huge in the government contracting space. We really created it so we can be able to help communities start generating wealth. So shout out to the whole Push for Prosperity team, because it definitely could not be done without them. We're a small but mighty team. We've really been able to successfully do that project. In addition, the PIPE program had 2 pipelines. The other was in career pathways. So we also helped individuals land a job. We've had so many applications. I was traveling around the state in the beginning because it is a state program. So we met people from all over, where we were able to really serve them and help them get great training, unique training from practitioners that were able to, they've worked in the corporate space, they look like them, they know the challenges. That program specifically served underserved individuals and individuals of color and immigrants. So that's still going, and we're getting soon ready to wrap. But we also have another program called the AYA program, which is the African Youth Empowerment Program. That program really stemmed from being a African youth and not knowing how to navigate as a first generation. And it's a challenge that a lot of our African youth face. Like, hey, how do I manage credit? How do I do scholarships? How do I, I'm not used to systems like this, and my parents aren't used to it. So we have to figure it out on our own. And a lot of our African youth end up bumping their head because they're sold credit card systems, but not shown how to use a credit card to their advantage. And so we wanted to create a program where we help provide these tools to our youth early. We serve from age 14 to 24, and not only just the credit, but about how to apply, get scholarships, all those fun things. And we're really excited because we are launching our summit, which has taken all the curriculum we learned over time. And that summit is going to allow us to really showcase what these youth have learned. And we're giving away $15,000 worth of scholarships, because that was one thing for our team. Like, we want to be able to give youth something to alleviate the cost of college, and we want to promote entrepreneurship. So that application is going to be actually opening up this month for any African youth, first gen, second gen, etc. You're going to be submitting a scholarship application, and those that are awarded will be awarded at that event. And then we have a workshop will be coming up in April for those who want to go for the entrepreneurship scholarship, or I guess seed money, you can say, where they will pitch their business or their idea, and then they're able to win. But it's a really fun time. We're hoping to get as much support from African communities. We need mentors. We need, all these great people to come and help our youth see and support them and just encourage them on the journey. So that's a program we're really proud of, and we're just continuing to build. So We would love to have community come out. We would love to partner with community to continue to do this great work. And yeah, that's our big things going on now. So we're pretty busy in this
Okay.
last few months of the spring summer season.
How do you balance a for-profit and a non-profit? So two
Yes.
different missions. Two different missions. How do you balance it?
You know what? Honestly, I miss my for-profit work a lot sometimes because it was much easier to balance. It's a nonprofit is a beast because it's so much you have to manage just from okay, regulatory things to okay, then community. Oh, then grant has restrictions. Oh, we can't use this. We can't, and then people and keeping people because nonprofits, you can't pay what I pay for, push strategists. So, it's been a journey. It's been tough, but I would say I thank God for, the team who has really been awesome. So shout out to Desi, Jafine, Dr. Ritonia, who else? Jennifer, Adia. I hope I'm not Mark. They have really been, and if I'm Hiba, there's certain people who have really helped us to do successfully. And then we have a bunch of facilitators and mentors who have come. As far, I would say it's really been hard work-life balance. And I had to be intentional this year to make sure I keep work-life balance because I was getting burnt out in a way, trying to manage both businesses. And it's something I loved. So I had to ask myself, like, if I love this, why am I being burnt out? And I knew my passion was coming to the point where it's like your body's telling you, look, you're 40 now, you gotta, and
Yeah.
even though 40 is the new 20, and I have a family, I have other things I have to find
Sure.
more balance. So this year I've really put things in place, and life put things in place where, I'm finding time to say, okay, when I close the computer, it's going to be closed. Even though sometimes I may get up early in the morning and get back on it. And then I think life has a way, like I've told you guys on this journey, God has a way when he's like, I'm going to slow you down, whether you like to or not, because I want you to continue to do this great work.
Yeah.
And I think that also has been some revelation I've had this time. And then I would say one thing too is knowing how to grow and make decisions that will help you do business better. When I started the nonprofit, we just kind of started running. But what I did this year is I started to pull back and say, okay, here's my nonprofit playbook. What worked? What didn't? What do I have to start, stop, and continue? And where do I want to see myself in the next 3 to 5 years? How can I start positioning myself to do that now?
Okay.
So and I will say for Push Strategist, I took a whole year where I was not doing much contracts, where I was not putting out a lot of work. I was working behind the scenes on how I can make my business better. And I think advice for entrepreneurs is making sure you find that time to also go back and look at your business and say, where are we at? What's doing well? And what do I need to change to get to my end goal? And
Okay.
when I did that this year, or in these last actually few weeks, even as I've been thinking through, it's really helped me understand now how that work-life balance is important. So making sure you make time to actually not just be in the business and do the business, but work on the business so you don't have to be the business, and I think a lot of us as entrepreneurs, especially solo entrepreneurs, we are the business and we burn ourselves out. And you
Okay.
don't want to do that.
Okay. Well, folks, tonight we are discussing from idea to impact, being a consulting business or now a nonprofit, right, that serves community. So we have Ms. Osi Sesay in the building from Push Strategist. Ms. B, question from you.
I mean, I kind of want you to kind of, hyper ventilate or repeat that, like screaming from the top of your lungs, because I'm here every Wednesday telling people that, right? And I'm glad they get to hear that from somebody again. It's like there's a difference between building the business and being in the business and being the business. Yeah. And you touched on that very well. So I kind of want you to just kind of break that down a little bit when you're telling people, like, what does building the business look like? Because they feel like, because they open the doors every day,
Mm-hmm.
because they go into that space if it's a brick or mortar, or because they are available for customers to access them, then they're building the business. And that's not what building the business really is. So what is building the business?
Yeah, I feel like building the business is pulling up things like your financials and saying, "Hey, am I really profiting in my business, or am I just doing business? Do I have the right strategies in place to say, okay, I want to pay myself consistently as an owner. What do I have to, where have we been overspending, and where do I need to say, okay, I need to transition or get rid of this to be able to get to the point where I can pay myself consistently." And it's also saying, what do I have to let go of, which is the hardest for business owners, because sometimes we don't want to let go of certain things and it just doesn't work. So I think that's a huge part of building a business. A lot of people are scared of financials, but that should be exciting, because you have to have a bookkeeper. Please let me say with a microphone, get a bookkeeper. Because you need to be able to let your numbers tell stories. That's how you get access to capital. That's how you're able to really show people what you're doing is lucrative enough that they want to give and support your business. And especially in a nonprofit space, they're all about making sure that your books are transparent. So that was one of the things that I said, okay, we ran this program, we did well, but now I want to focus on building a nonprofit that can outlast, forever. So we want to get more different types of funding in. We need to have things in place to be able to have those funders be attracted to us. I met with a mentor who was telling me about having your books audited, and she told me the price. I'm like, what? Pay for that? But she's like, hey, that will help you look attractive. That as a small organization, you got your books audited and they look good. So there's things like that you take time, ask, and that's a big piece. Find a mentor or somebody who you can see that's doing better than you, and let them also help you and guide you. So I've had,
Mm.
mentors.
Yeah.
Shout out to Nalima and that other amazing lady at Acer, and and also, at Hired. And I've had mentors and I'm
Sure.
growing my mentor pool because I was not a nonprofit before.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, hey, I'm plugging into spaces where there's other executive directors to things that I didn't do well. Like, I'm like, I do not want to do HR and hiring. That is not me. I am too direct. People be like, she's mean. I'm like, there's things I learned
Sure.
about myself, and those are all part of building a business. But if you don't stop and assess that, you're going to run your business to the ground. You're going to end up losing great people. You're going to end up losing great opportunities. So to me, that's vital. Find time to take a deep breath and really look at your business and make sure that it's still working,
Okay.
because a lot of
Yeah.
people don't do that. And then they find out, like, oh my gosh, we are in the red and we've been in the red because they just never took time to really
Sure.
assess. So,
Yeah. Yeah. The one thing you touch on here, and I'm curious to dig deeper, and that's why we have this segment every Wednesday, finance and business, right? I mean, you mentioned people, a lot of African immigrants are afraid that their finances, whether personally or as a
yeah,
business, right? Or as
yeah,
a business. But you brought about a great point. How how can we, like, get comfortable with our finances, get
mm,
comfortable with our finances. What I want you to expand on that a little bit, because a lot of people, the reason why to me businesses don't get from point A to point B,
yeah,
because number one, they don't do, I mean, the auditing stuff, right? I don't think a lot of nonprofits even like that. A lot of folks now community that have nonprofits, but they don't do the auditing stuff.
yeah.
I want you to expand on that more. How do you link into the financial stuff for your business in order to get it to the next
Yes.
level?
Yeah, I would say, especially for this nonprofit, it's all still new for me. It's always new. I just am really big, like I said, on the business side of things. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm always like the person, like, hey, let's look up the policy. Hey, I want to ask the business attorney. I want to ask the attorney. Because I like doing things business wise. And I will tell you, I think that's what has really helped set us apart.
Okay.
Like, because I try to always follow rules,
Okay.
and so that's number one. And I also don't like messing with people's money. And
Sure.
nonprofit is all about other people's money. And I'm like, I don't want no part of messing with people's money wrong, especially federal dollars or
Sure.
Yes.
dollars. I am afraid. I can't sleep at night if I'm like, so I'm constantly like, how much in the budget do we have? Let's make sure it aligns, So
Yeah.
I would say that part of me, I think I'm thankful for, even though sometimes I lose sleep thinking about it.
Yeah.
But I would say it's so important.
Sure.
A bookkeeper is so important. And let me tell you, you don't have to. That's why you have fractional services. Get a
Sure.
fractional bookkeeper. They don't have to be full time. You don't have to work with them all the time. And we think as the owner, you have to know everything. No, you leverage. For me, I leverage
Yeah.
what's not my strength. I hire somebody,
Okay.
and you can hire them fractionally so you save money because we're still growing. I'm still growing.
Yeah.
I'm still looking for more funding to do this work. We're only
Okay.
2 years old.
Okay.
But there's certain things,
Mm.
there's a cost to do business. And that's
Yeah.
the thing that irks me the most when I get people who don't want to spend. And I'm like, there's a cost to do business too.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
you have to be willing to spend that cost if you want to get to the next level. So
Yep.
Okay.
there's non-negotiables. Attorney is a non-negotiable for me. I have to have an attorney on my speed dial that's on a retainer because I know it's business.
Yeah.
A
Yeah.
bookkeeper or a finance person, non-negotiable. You got to have that,
Okay.
So I just think, we have to start to get comfortable. And the way you get comfortable is getting around people who learn. And then they have services, like
Yeah.
even through nonprofits and Propel nonprofit. There's so much resources where you could take a free class and learn, Udemy. I
Okay.
just, paid for a class. Just take a class and learn, get familiar. Don't be
Okay.
afraid because you got to know your numbers.
Okay.
And you want more money, you got to know your numbers.
Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. Well, folks, that's the 1 hour show, right? It's been interesting, man. I mean, you are very knowledgeable. You, I mean, we could keep going all
I
night, but it's a
know.
1 hour, show, and we gotta try to wrap it up and
Yeah.
stuff. So, Miss B, I'll give you the opportunity to maybe like ask Miss Osisese any last question or so.
I just want to tell you thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. It was
You
fun. I
know,
really enjoyed it.
everything you're doing, and you talked about a lot of things coming up here next month and in May. I want to invite you to come back and let us know how we can support you in those upcoming events. So please come back.
Yes, yes. And please, I will make sure I send you guys information. Hopefully you guys have commercial breaks. You can
Mhm.
put a spotlight for these programs and things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
April and May, go to pushforprosperity.org, look up events, look up the AEP page, look up Push for Prosperity PIPE program. You'll get all the information you need to be able to get plugged in. So thank
Okay.
you.
Okay. Well, folks, it's been a great show tonight. But before I let Ms. Osisese go, I know you said your dad is from Nigeria, your mother is from Liberia.
Yes.
So Liberian jollof or Nigerian jollof?
Oh, let me tell you, I'm a Liberian everything. Liberian food is. I'm sorry, my Nigerian people, I love you, but Liberian food hands down.
We
And
cook better. We know how to
yes,
season. I'm sorry,
and
but
we
girl,
like to have
yes,
multiple meats in our food. I can't do. I love my
yes.
South African, but the one meats, I'm like, I need multiple flavors. But I'm gonna have to say sorry, but
Okay.
Liberian jollof.
Okay. Lastly, then we gotta go. Lastly, then what do you enjoy? What do you enjoy doing when you are not working with Push Strategies or Push for Prosperity? What do you enjoy doing?
Honestly, spending time with my kids and family.
Okay.
I would say traveling, and spending time with girlfriends. Just not having to have the hat on of a business leader, but just honestly, just sit there. Like I'll tell you, they make fun of me. I'm the one that doesn't know anything about pop culture. I'm like years behind, and they're like, I said that was years ago. So
Okay.
I just love being able to not have to overstimulate my mind
Okay.
and just have fun and live. Life is
Okay.
short, so those things and are important to me. So that's what I'm
Well,
usually doing.
yeah. Well, thank you so much. It's been a great show. And as Miss B said, we'll hope to have you back here, right? Because you have a lot to share. You have a lot of knowledge, So thank you so much for doing this. And
Yeah.
I definitely you provide a lot of information to our audience tonight, to the community, and that's what the community needs. So thank you so much for amplifying your voice tonight. And you all have
Thank
a
you
good
for
night.
the
Yeah,
opportunity.
yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you, inner
yeah. Thank
city
you for, yeah, bye bye.
people.